I used to believe everything had an answer until I became the question. I was the lead engineer at a defense technology firm, 42 years old, living as precisely as an equation. I ate on schedule, slept in shifts, and followed the commands of my brain, not my heart. In my mind, everything had a reason, every event had a pattern, and anything that couldn't be proven belonged in the realm of emotion, not reality. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in karma. I didn't believe there was anything after the heart stopped beating. When you die, that's it. End of story. Life was a graph. You go up or down. Success or failure, all measured in data. And then I died. Not in some fiery explosion like a movie. Not from a stray bullet or terminal illness. I died on a quiet, windy afternoon, out at sea. Just a few minutes. Water filled my lungs. My heart stopped. The world went silent. And in that brief moment, the very thing I had once laughed at, dismissed as superstition, brushed off as stories to scare children, it pulled me in. Gently. Without asking. There were no nightmares. No eerie lights. No figure in black is waiting with a scythe. Only one staggering truth. I was still existing, even though my heart had stopped. How does someone who built his entire life on logic begin to accept that the greatest experience of his life can't be explained by any formula? How does a man who believed freedom meant control finally admit he never really chose anything for himself? I thought I was free. I thought I was in charge. But if that were true, why did I feel so lost even in my final moment? Maybe the biggest shock wasn't that I had died. It was that I wasn't afraid. I felt relief. As if, for the first time, I had shed the armor of being successful, capable, strong. I was no longer Cassian Hale, badge-wearing employee, homeowner with a 3-story house and a company title. I was just awareness. Something clear and fragile, floating. And somehow, that felt like coming home. I died. But the journey had only just begun. Have you ever wondered what if death isn't a period, but a question mark? And what if that question leads you somewhere you never expected? Let me take you back to the final years of my old life, the life I thought I was living well, when in truth, I was only existing. That chapter of my life where I didn't even realize I had been dying, little by little, all along. I had everything most people spend their whole lives chasing, except myself. My father was a soldier. From an early age, he taught me that emotion was weakness and logic was strength. He never raised a hand to me, but his cold, stone-hard stare cut sharper than any belt. Every time I cried, he'd say, "Men don't cry. If you're strong, you fix the problem." So I grew up like a machine analyzing, acting, and achieving. Every failure wasn't a lesson. It was a humiliation to be avoided at all costs. And I became very good, at least on paper. I entered college on a full engineering scholarship, graduated straight into a dream job, climbed the ladder like an elevator. By 35, I was the chief technical officer at one of the top defense tech firms in the country. Big house, company car, a 6-figure bank account, a Swiss watch. My life was as polished and orderly as a blueprint. But the one thing I couldn't design was my own heart. I was once married. For 2 years. My wife, Serena, was an interior designer. She had warm eyes and gentle hands. But I never told her I loved her. I saw things like that as secondary, like optional sensors in a system. When she said, "I feel like we're growing farther apart," I responded, "It's not because I did anything wrong. We're just out of sync." She nodded, packed her suitcase, and didn't cry. And I went back to my desk. I didn't lose a wife. I lost my chance to be human. I never had children. Not because I didn't want them, but because I didn't know what it meant to be a father when I had never really learned how to be a son. My friendships never went beyond the level of cordial colleague. I had no one to call when night fell. And I didn't call anyone either. My schedule was packed from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Weekends were for side projects. Vacation days were for organizing my file cabinets. I lived efficiently with no clutter, no waste. But also no feeling, no memories, no meaning. A life so clean it had no soul. There was a night I sat alone in my glass apartment on the 27th floor, looking down at the glittering city lights. And I asked myself, is this the peak? I had reached the place people called success. So why did it feel so cold? Why, in a home filled with light, did I feel like I had disappeared? At the time, I thought I was just tired. Now I know it was the sound of my soul screaming. But I was too busy to listen. I thought I was free. But I was just a product of expectation, performance, and a life built on success without spirit. I was an engineer. But I didn't know how to operate my being. And then that day came. I stepped onto a small boat, thinking I was just going for a casual weekend sail, not knowing it would be the last time I carried this body with me. The moment I died and the moment life truly began did not come where I expected. Death didn't come like an explosion. It came like a touch, soft, quiet, and without asking. It was a still Saturday afternoon. I had been invited to join a group of business partners for a sailing trip. On paper, it was a casual networking event, but in reality, it was a subtle contest of courage, the kind of real-world challenge successful people use to measure one another. I didn't like the ocean, but I hated saying no to a game I hadn't yet won. The boat drifted far from shore. By 3 p.m., the waves began to rise. A sudden gust of wind ripped through the sails. I stood up out of reflex, without fastening my harness. A sharp twist, the screech of metal, a single misstep, and then water. It all happened in less than 3 seconds. I feel like a snapped piece of steel. No scream, no warning, just a cold, skin-cutting darkness. Then silence. At first I fought. My lungs burned in panic, arms thrashing against the pull of the current. But the more I struggled, the deeper I sank. And then at some point I stopped. My body stopped. And something strange happened. I felt separate. I wasn't that body anymore. I saw myself from above, sinking into murky green water, my hair drifting like seaweed, my face pale, eyes wide open. It should have been terrifying, but I wasn't afraid, because I was no longer inside that scene. I began to drift. Light as silk, soft as smoke. No gravity, no sound, no form. A soft glow surrounded me, but it didn't blind me. It warmed, like being held by a love I had never allowed myself to feel. I didn't know where I was, and for the first time, I didn't ask. I didn't need a reason. I simply was. Then I saw a stream of light ahead. Not dazzling, but magnetic. There were no voices, no welcoming figures. But something gentle was drawing me toward it, like the way a child instinctively seeks its mother's arms. And as I moved closer, I began to hear something not sound, but more like music without notes, a whisper without words. It rose from within me. Something strange and familiar was calling my name without a voice. And I answered without speaking. There was no time there. No seconds, no minutes, no days. Only one overwhelming sense. I was returning to a place I had once belonged. A place where every illusion, every false layer, simply fell away, leaving only the raw essence of the soul. A truth that couldn't be avoided. A version of myself I had never known, yet remembered as if I had lived there once. It wasn't a place for those who were worthy. It was a place for those who were willing to let go. And I did. For the first time in my life, I let go. But I didn't yet know that I was about to face something more terrifying than death. Not the light, but myself. I was shown my entire life not through my own eyes, but through the hearts of the people I had hurt. No one pointed a finger at me. No one shouted, guilty. There was only me, watching myself through the eyes of the people I once overlooked. I wasn't sitting in a courtroom. There was no gavel, no scorecard, no deity standing by to record my mistakes. And yet, I knew instantly that I was being shown my life. But unlike any replay I'd ever imagined, this time, I wasn't on my side. I saw myself at 6 years old, telling my first lie to my mother. A tiny lie about a broken pencil. I thought it had passed unnoticed. But this time, I saw her face after I left the room. She sat quietly on the couch, gripping her teacup, not angry, just sad. A soft, aching sadness that lingered. I saw it. I felt it. Not through memory, but through the soul. I saw Serena, my ex-wife, sitting by the window, holding her phone, waiting for me to come home for our anniversary dinner. I had texted, urgent meeting. She wasn't angry. She just quietly packed away the food, placed it in the fridge, and turned off the lights. And I could hear her thought in that moment, he never chose me. Not once. I saw a young intern at the office, the boy I once scolded in front of the entire team for a minor mistake. I saw him slip into the restroom, trying to swallow his tears. And I felt the sting in his chest, the crushing sense of being worthless. I had caused that, not with my hands, but with my words. Each moment didn't last long, but it echoed with terrifying depth. No one scolded me. No one condemned me. But I wanted to run from myself. Every glance I ignored, every careless word, every time I turned my back and called it normal, now struck me with full force. Not like weapons, but like truth. I used to believe that not hurting anyone was enough to be considered a good person. But now I understand that not hurting is the bare minimum. To truly live is to take responsibility for the imprint you leave on someone else's heart. I had lived neatly, respectfully, within all the lines. But I had been cold. And in that place, where every emotion shimmered like living color, I saw myself gray. No one told me I was unworthy. But I knew if I wanted to continue toward that light, I had to forgive myself. But how do you forgive yourself when you've never known how to love yourself? Then a voice, wordless, gentle as mist, whispered inside me. Now do you see? And I didn't need to ask, see what? Because I knew. I had seen myself. For the first time, without defense, without excuses, without a mask. And I broke. Even without a body, I fell. My soul knelt silent, weeping without form because I realized I had never truly lived. And just when I thought that was the end, the light opened another door. No more memories. No more past. Only one question, so full it took the breath from my being. Do you want to go back? In the next part, I'll share with you the strange and sacred conversation I had with that light about freedom, about choice, and about the reason I'm still here. I thought the light was the end. But it wasn't. It was a question. That light didn't arrive with a booming voice. It wasn't blinding or dramatic, not sacred in the way a cathedral might feel. It was simple, smooth like early autumn sunlight, warm like a mother's hand in a forgotten childhood memory. It surrounded me, but never forced me forward. It didn't call my name. Yet somehow, I could feel it knew me, it understood me, and it was waiting. There was no form, but I could feel a presence. There were no words, but I could hear. Not with my ears, but with a kind of knowing that can't be explained. And then it asked me not in language, but in essence, a question that stopped everything inside me. Do you want to go back? I was stunned. Go back? For what? I had just let go of a life that felt rigid, heavy, one where I was a name, but not a self. Here, there was no time, no pressure, no expectations, only love. And I had never known love like that. Not ever. And now, I was being asked to leave it. I asked in return, silently, what if I say no? And the answer came not as logic, but as feeling. There is no punishment, only freedom. No heaven, no hell, no judgment, no reward. Only a chance to live again, but awake. A chance to return to the same world, but carry this light within me. A chance to choose again, this time not out of fear, but out of love. I thought of my mother, the one I had forgotten to call for months. I thought of Serena, her quiet eyes on what turned out to be her last birthday with me. I thought of the intern, the boy who, even now, might still believe he's worthless because of one careless moment. I thought of all the people I had passed by. And I thought of myself, the version of me that had died in silence, with no one even noticing. I asked, but I don't know how to live the right way. And the light responded not with words, but with a truth that soaked through every part of my being. Just love. Every small choice is made with love. In that moment, I saw that free will isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about knowing what you're choosing, and why you're choosing it. If I could choose again every glance, every word, every silence, and choose them with love, then maybe the entire world could shift. I didn't need to be a hero. I just needed to live kindly, fully, present. I still didn't know if I was brave. But I knew one thing. If I went back, I could never live the same way again. And for the first time, not with words, but with complete trust, I said, I'm ready. And at that very moment, a gentle force began to pull me away from the light. As if I had just made a sacred promise. The world started to fold in. The light faded. And I felt a sharp pain not in my spirit, but in my body. I was returning. I was coming back. I was waking up. And then I opened my eyes. Under the cold, white hospital lights, surrounded by forlines, wires, and the sterile smell of antiseptic. But I knew everything had changed. I came back, but no one knew how far I had gone. When I opened my eyes, the hospital lights were blinding white in a way that felt soulless. The air was thick with the faint scent of alcohol, plastic, sweat, and blood. I could hear the steady beep of the heart monitor. A nurse stepped through the door and shouted for the doctor. My body trembled, but my mind was awake, clear, as if it had never slept. I knew I had returned, but I also knew I was no longer the same. It took 3 days before I could speak. My voice was hoarse, as if every word had to be dug out from the earth. When I told them what I had experienced, the first response wasn't awe, it was doubt. The doctor explained it as a hallucination caused by oxygen deprivation. A colleague who came to visit patted my shoulder and laughed. Looks like stress gave you one hell of a dream, buddy. But my elderly mother simply held my hand for a long time without saying a word, and for the first time, I saw tears in her eyes. I stayed quiet, not because I feared disbelief, but because I understood what happened didn't need to be believed. It only needed to be lived, again and again, through how I chose to exist. I began to learn to walk again, not just with my legs, but with my heart. I listened more closely, looked more intentionally, and asked questions that went deeper. I called Serena for the first time not to reconnect, but simply to say I was sorry. She was quiet for a while, then asked, "Cassian, are you okay?" I smiled softly and said, "For the first time." I tracked down the intern from years ago. He's now an engineer at a small firm. I sent him an email not to offer a formal apology, but to describe exactly what I had felt when I stood on the other side of his eyes that day. He replied 3 days later with one simple line, "Thank you." I never forgot, and I cried not from regret, but because something inside me had finally been set free. I resigned, not because I hated my old job, but because I no longer fit the role I had been playing. I began spending my time sharing my experience, not as someone who knows everything, but as someone who had just been born again. I didn't try to convince anyone. I simply told my story, and those who were ready to listen would find what they needed in their way. And yes, I still feel alone sometimes. There are nights when I sit in the dark, my hand resting over my heart, wondering did I imagined all of it. But every time doubt creeps in, I only have to remember that light, that silence, that feeling of timelessness. I know it was real, not as something outside of me, but as something now alive within me every minute, every second. And after many months of relearning how to live, like someone taking their first steps again, I came to understand something I had never grasped before. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's knowing what's worth doing. In the end, I'll leave you with the final lesson I brought back, the one about love, about choice, and about how you can live again without having to die. I'm no longer afraid of death. But what's even more surprising is I'm no longer afraid of life. 3 months after I woke up, after physical therapy, after long nights of writing down fragments of memory from the other side, I went in for a routine checkup as my doctor had advised. I thought everything was fine, but when the exam room door opened, I knew my journey wasn't over. The doctor sat down, his voice calm and steady, as if he were commenting on the weather. "Cassian, we've found a small mass. It's cancer. Stage 2. I looked at him, no shaking, no panic, no bitterness. A silence settled over the room. Then I asked, "Is it going to kill me?" He hesitated. "Not if we treat it in time." I nodded and smiled. "Then let's do it." I didn't feel like a victim. I didn't ask, "Why me?" anymore, because I understood everything that was taught. And this time the lesson was, live slower, live cleaner, live truer. I began eating lighter, not out of religion, but because my body needed gentleness. I practiced breathing, writing, and thanking every cell inside me. I didn't see cancer as an enemy. I saw it as a final message from the version of me who died that day, a message that said, "Cassian, don't come back the way you were." During every chemotherapy session, I closed my eyes and sent love to my body. I imagined the light I once saw moving through me, cleansing, healing not just flesh, but memory. I met other patients, and I didn't tell them about the day I died. I told them how I learned to live again. I began calling the cancer my uninvited friend. That friend came to make sure I was truly awake, to remind me that rebirth isn't a one-time event. It's a choice made every single day. And I chose. I chose to laugh more, to sleep deeper, to love the people I had once taken for granted, to live as if every moment were a sacred ceremony. 1 year later, the tumor shrank. Not a miracle, just a body that had finally learned to trust me enough to begin healing. And maybe, just maybe, it had heard the whispers of love I sent to it each day. I died once, to learn that every day of life is a privilege. I had to understand that love isn't immune to pain, but it has the power to heal even despair. And that's when I realized the light I saw isn't just out there. It's here. In me. In you. In every small, loving choice we make. In the final part, I'll share with you one last message, not from someone who survived, but from someone who truly came back to life. I used to think freedom meant not being controlled. But now I know freedom is knowing why you're choosing what you choose. I had everything: status, wealth, power, intellect. I moved through life like someone in control. But the truth is, I was running. From myself. From emotion. From the vulnerability I was terrified might break me. And I had to die to realize what I spent my life avoiding was the doorway back to truth. Freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. True freedom is choosing what's right, even when no one's watching. Freedom isn't about how many options you have. It's found in the awareness behind every tiny action, the look in your eyes, the words you speak, the way you move through someone else's life. Freedom doesn't come from how wise you are. It comes from whether or not you're still living with your heart open. I don't need anyone to believe that I died. That no longer matters. I'm not here to tell a miraculous story. I'm here to remind you, you don't have to die to come back to life. You just have to start choosing love over fear, choosing to listen more than to argue, choosing to forgive instead of resenting, choosing to return inward instead of chasing what's out there, choosing to sit with the truth instead of running from it with excuses. I once asked the light, "What should I do?" And the answer came, love. Simple, but not easy. And if you're still listening, maybe this is your invitation to, not to go somewhere else, but to return. Return to yourself. Return to the light you forgot, you've been carrying all along. Live as if this is the first time you've ever been alive, and also the last. Live as if you've just returned from death, carrying a new heart and an ancient truth. Only love can truly set us free. If you've ever experienced something like this, if you've ever felt yourself brush against the edge of life and death, if you've ever seen a light you couldn't explain, share your story below. Because maybe the light within you is exactly what someone out there needs most right now.